Namaste. In today's video, I'm talking about Anahata Nadas. Anahata Nadas means the unstruck sound. The sounds which we hear within our mind, within our self, when we are undergoing a spiritual awakening. At different stages of the spiritual awakening, we hear different types of sounds. And these sounds indicate the spiritual progression which is happening within us. Sometimes these sounds vary depending on what type of a spiritual awakening or a Kundalini awakening we are having. In today's video, I'm talking about these unheard, unstruck, Anahata sounds. A normal human can only listen to a particular range of sound frequencies from 20 Hz to 20,000 Hz. So the ability to listen is restricted within that range. So Anahata sounds don't come within this range. Anahata sounds are those sounds which are heard within us at a very subtle level. We use ears to listen to sounds externally when we are using the physical body as an instrument to receive sound. But the power to listen, it is there within us in a subtle body in the form of sound tanmatra. So you don't need a physical ear to listen to these sounds which are getting generated within your body at a very subtle level. And they are also coming from other dimensions. For example, if you hear mantras which are coming from the other dimension. So in a way, we have the ability within us, a kind of a subtle power called sound tanmatra, the power to be able to listen. It allows us to listen to a wide range of sounds. And these sounds are the unheard sounds. These are only available to a person when they're undergoing a spiritual awakening process. Now, what type of sounds one listens to in the process again depends on what stage of spiritual evolution they are and what type of a spiritual awakening they are undergoing. Generally, these sounds, inner sounds, get very high or they are mostly heard when a lot of energy is working in the brain in this area. And at a point in the spiritual awakening process or the Kundalini awakening process, there is a connection that is happening between the heart and the brain. During this phase too, we will listen to a lot of Anahata sounds. Generally, when somebody is undergoing a spiritual awakening, the initial phases, the common thing that many listen to is the white noise. In the earlier days, we had the television sets, and when there was no program running over it, we would hear this white noise. This white noise is initially heard in phases. Later on, it can become a non-stop sound that is running in the background of your brain. So generally what is happening here is the energy is working mostly in this region, especially for somebody who's undergoing a top-down awakening. Top-down awakening is where you experience the descension of grace or the descension of Shakti. The energy is moving from the top of the body and it is moving into the body, head downwards. Generally here, the white noise is heard much greater than when compared to an awakening where the Kundalini is rising upwards. Kundalini rising too, you will listen to the white noise, but this is more prominent in a top-down awakening. Apart from this, some listen to birds chirping, some hear to bees buzzing, crickets are heard. Sometimes it feels like a lot of crickets are there and they're making those noises. Some listen to bells, chin, 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 those type of noises. These can be heard in the background, sometimes intermittently, sometimes in certain phases of your process, and sometimes they're heard very loud. All these sounds are heard because the vibrational level of the person is increasing. And these will be accompanied with flus and then cold. Generally, when we get flu or cold, we have the immediate tendency to take a tablet. If it is a normal fever or normal cold, please avoid taking a tablet. Rather, let it work through your system, let it purge your system. That way, you are sort of aligning yourself with the spiritual awakening process. When we move much ahead into the process, where there is a connection happening between the heart and the brain, during this phase, the Anahata Nadas, they are heard in the form of musical instruments. Generally, in many books, what I have read is when the Kundalini is moving up the spine, it pierces the grandhis that are there in the Sushumna Nadi. So, one of the grandhi that is there is the Vishnu Grandhi. When the Vishnu Grandhi is pierced, Kundalini gains access to the heart region. So many say that when this event happens in the body, people listen to these different types of musical instruments in their head. But in my experience, I did not listen to these musical instruments uh, when my Vishnu Grandhi got pierced. And neither did I listen to these musical instruments when my Kundalini was moving up the Sushumna through various chakras. The point in my spiritual or Kundalini awakening process, I heard these musical instruments playing within me was when my heart and brain were connecting. This happened after Kundalini Shakti. It changed its base from the Muladhara chakra to the Agya chakra. So Kundalini is now residing in this area, which is above the Agya chakra, and from here she is controlling the process. When she is controlling the process from here and she is trying to move upwards, from here up you are entering into the causal realms or the Anandamaya Kosha. We have different sheets in our body. So till here it is the Vijnanamaya Kosha, and from up the Vijnanamaya Kosha we have the causal realms starting. There are many layers to the causal realms also. Once Kundalini has entered, I'm talking about a Kundalini awakening which is moving down up. In this case, when Kundalini reaches the causal level, here she connects the heart and the brain. So here the heart activity, it gets intensified. You will experience bursts of energy in your heart, love flowing from your heart. The connections are being made to various parts in this area. Say you have chakras, you have the Hrit chakra, you have the Anahata chakra, and you have the Manasthana. There are various points in this area. So the energy is opening the knots which are there around the heart. It is connecting the various parts which are there in this region together. It is wiring them, and the nervous connections are changing there. When especially the energy at this point is working on the Anahata chakra or the Hrit chakra, we will listen to the flute being played inside our head. This is the Anahata chakra here, and the Hrit chakra is here. From here, the connections are made up into the brain. And when the heart brain is connecting, during this phase also, we will listen to a lot of musical instruments. I heard the flute, the veena, which is a stringed instrument. I heard tabla. I heard the mridanga. I heard the bells, the cymbals, which are used in bhajan and kirtan. I've heard those instruments. These were heard by me deep inside my head, and generally you can hear them in the right ear at this point in time, because earlier what was happening is your right ear is not very actively listening to these noises. These noises are heard within your head in general and predominantly from the left ear. But once a very good strong connection between the heart and the brain, and the right side of the brain starts opening and functioning. The energy is moving through the entire brain area, various parts of the brain, the centers are open. The right ear is now able to listen to a lot of inner rhythms or inner uh, changes in the sounds. Earlier, it does not function that well. Now, at this level, it functions very well. So, many of these instruments are heard in the right ear. If you're able to listen to these noises in the right side or the right ear, then it simply means that the sleeping part of your brain, the right hemisphere, is now coming to action. Some listen to the pranava, omkara, om, the shabda brahman, the music of the spheres. This is heard because omkara is part of our subtle system. Our body itself, the spine itself, it has this om in it. The lower part of your spine is A, the middle part of your subtle spine is U, and the upper part of your spine, that is still here, that is your inner omkara. So when your spine is functioning, it is active and energy is moving through it, or at least in some part of the spine, during some time, energy is moving through it. When we sit in meditation, very deep states of meditation, we can listen to Omkara. This inner Omkara is heard by us when we are in deep states of meditation, and when we can connect to some level with our Agya Chakra, or some part of the Agya Chakra is active also, we can listen to this Omkara. Then bells are heard. The sound of water or waterfalls is heard, especially when the Brahmarandra is opening. Brahmarandra is the fontanel area here. So when the fontanel area is getting pierced, it is a part of the Kundalini awakening process that the fontanel area gets pierced. But this does not happen in a top-down awakening. When this area is getting pierced by the Kundalini energy, there is a type of sound that is heard, that is the sound of a gushing waterfall, or the sound of a conch, blasting sound of a conch, or a thunderclap, or a blast is heard when the Brahmarandra is getting pierced by the Kundalini. Before around listening to these various inner Anahata sounds, people have visions of birds, the dove, eagle, swan, peacock are a very common thing, or seeing their feathers is also very common in the spiritual awakening process. And these are mostly seen in the top down awakening process, that is when the energy is descending on to the person from the universe. Before or during this event is happening with the person, they will see birds or feathers in their dreams, sometimes the seen in real time also. These birds have a different meaning. The doe is connected with the descension of grace, the white doe. Swan represents the self in the form of breath. The swan, it represents the breath and the effect of breath over our body and mind. The eagle, it represents the two sides of the brain. And the peacock too, it represents the blessings or the descension of grace onto a person. Many a times, the Sahasrara Chakra, the various petals that are there, Sahasrara Chakra has 1,000 petals. It is in this area over the head. So these petals are seen in the form of various types of feathers when somebody is undergoing a top-down awakening process. The difference between a top-down awakening and a Kundalini awakening process here is the energy is working inside the brain centers. That is, the Vayus are moving through the various centers of the brain, and the Sahasrara chakra, though it is on top of the head like a helmet, it is represented in the physical body in the form of the brain centers that are there. So when the energy is cleansing out the brain centers which are associated with various petals of the Sahasrara chakra, you will see in your third eye the Sahasrara chakra. And you can see that in various colors, sometimes like flowers, sometimes like feathers, sometimes like rainbow colored crown chakra. This is visible in the third eye visions. This generally happens in the top down awakening. But in a Kundalini awakening, the petals within the physical body are cleansed, and not only that, the Kundalini chakra, it pierces through this region, it comes out and then enters the Sahasrara chakra. But this does not happen in a top-down awakening process. So in a top-down awakening process, the cleansing activity and the domain where this energy works is just within the physical body. It does not pierce to the Brahmarandra, come out and go into the subtle Sahasrara chakra. This is the difference here. During a particular phase in the Kundalini awakening process, we experience the heart awakening. The Hrit chakra, the Anahata chakra, there a lot of activity happening there, and the heart opens up. It feels like there are these bursts of energy happening in the heart, and a lot of love is flowing out of from the heart region. Before or while this is happening with the person can see visions of various saints, uh, certain imagery that is connected to love or Krishna. Krishna is prominently seen by a lot of people, especially in a top-down awakening. And accompanied to the vision of Krishna, you will even listen to the flute. You will see that Krishna carries a flute and is playing the flute. Top-down awakening, when the heart is opening up, the Anahata sound that is heard is the playing of a flute. And if you look at the pictures of Krishna in the background, the first picture you can see a swan here. The swan, it is the bird that is connected with your breath. The in-breath and out-breath, which keeps this body alive, it represents that. And it represents the self. Second picture, you can see a peacock. Peacock, it represents the descension of grace. So Krishna is a kind of a personification of the heart awakening, the descension of grace, all that happens in a spiritual awakening process, the major connections between the heart and brain that happen. Krishna personifies it. That is why when people are into a lot of bhakti, they are into a lot of love, gratitude, compassion, they surrender to God, they're selfless, they're very content, devoted, they admire beauty, they are very peaceful and calm, loving people. Such people, when they sort of divert all their energies towards devotion to God, they have a heart awakening. And predominantly during this phase, they will see Krishna. Apart from Krishna, some see certain angels, certain other deities, Saint Germain. They are seen when we are about to have a top-down awakening or a heart awakening. The difference between a Kundalini awakening and a top-down awakening is, in a top-down awakening, once the energy has descended into the body, after it has done its work in the body, it turns upwards and it goes out of the body. When it is going out of the body, it works in the heart region, and while it is going out, it connects the heart with the brain, and then it forms a very strong auric field around the person's body. This is how the energy works in connecting the heart and brain in a top-down awakening. In a Kundalini awakening process, the down-up moving Kundalini, after it reaches the Agya Chakra, from this region, the energy moves into the heart space and it works in the heart, and then it creates a major link between the heart and the brain. This is how it happens in a Kundalini awakening process. The many great Indian saints who achieved divinehood through devotion, Mirabai, Ramdas, Tukaram, Surdas, they used their entire energies in devotion to God, they surrendered to God, and that caused a spiritual transformation within them. Many of these saints, when they were undergoing the peak heart brain connections, they could see Krishna inside their head. They could listen to the various musical instruments. They themselves were immersed in playing various instruments, singing, dancing, chanting, and they even experienced seeing a Ras Leela inside their head. When they saw Krishna's Ras Leela inside their head, their bodies automatically went into a state of deep bliss. They would lose contact with the outside world and they would be immersed in divine love. They would participate in this Ras Leela and dance along with Krishna, sing along with Krishna, and they would be in that state of deep pleasure during this phase. So, what is Ras Leela? Ras or Ras is bliss, it is pleasure, it is sweet taste, and Leela is miracle or play of God. So it is a play of bliss, a play of sweetness, a play of grace is what Ras Leela is. And in many ancient legends in India, Krishna is described doing a dance and song festival, which is the Ras Leela with the many gopis. They are about 16,000 gopis in the Vrindavan. So he would dance and play with all these 16,000 gopikas or gopis, and he would be present with each gopi at the same time. So this legend is still celebrated to the modern days as the festival of Holi in some parts of India, where people dance, they spray colors. The colors represent different chakras in our body. So it is a festival of song, dance, colors, water, all that which represent the heart awakening. They are a part of this festival. But before we can have an heart awakening, we should have the attitude that the gopis had for Krishna. They had deep love. They experienced deep amount of gratitude, peace, surrender in the presence of Krishna. They felt very contented. They did not want anything more other than Krishna in their life. They would listen to his flute and they would lose touch with their bodies. They would go into a state of deep bliss. This attitude is necessary when we are undergoing a spiritual awakening process. This is what makes us worthy of receiving the divine grace from the universe. We are automatically moving into the recipient mode. So when we are in this receiving mode, we receive copious amounts of grace from the universe, like how the gopis here are receiving the love of Krishna in the form of music, in the form of dance, in the form of a bliss. The same way, we too receive the universal love in the form of energy as descension of grace. And that is why during these phases we see various birds that are associated with Ras Leela, like the swan, the peacock, some sea dove, and many saints too saw these visions when they were undergoing the heart awakening process. So basically, to undergo the heart awakening process, people need to experience these wonderful emotions within them. When we get into this mood where we are experiencing these deep emotions of gratitude or contentment or love, the heart bursts open little, then little more when we experience those emotions again. Little by little, your heart is opening, it is responding. When this is happening, initially you will not feel it, but after this happens many times, the burst opening of the heart, it can feel like love is coming out of it, love is flowing out of it. And this is entirely a different level of consciousness. Now you're no longer operating from the lower animalistic consciousness, but rather here you're moved into a higher love based consciousness, which is the heart based consciousness. That is why when somebody is very sensitive, their heart is burst opening with these lovely emotions. They can further activate their heart by chanting Krishna's name. Just place your hand on your heart and chant the name of Krishna. Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. You will feel your heart burst opening further. There's so much love getting generated within the heart. When you chant the name Krishna, that is enough. Heart starts bursting. You will feel pain in this region as if the heart is trying to open, because Krishna is connected to heart awakening. Further, ras in Ras Leela means nectar. You can call it something sweet natured. So the ambrosia or the nectar that drips in a spiritual awakening, that is also part of the spiritual awakening or the Kundalini awakening process. And the end result of Ras Leela is to experience that bliss, the dripping of inner nectar. In a top down awakening, it is experienced as the cerebrospinal fluid that gets ionized in the process, and you can feel it dripping down here and coming into your mouth. And for this to create that sensation of deep bliss, the cerebrospinal fluid should be very highly charged or ionized. In a Kundalini awakening process, this is seen differently. My experience, I saw it as a liquid light drop coming from the top, the heavens, into the head, and from the bliss center. The bliss center here is there at the back. Okay, from there the drop drops into the body, and when the drop is descending into the body, there's a lot of sweet smell associated with that drop. And when it drips into the body, it gets collected in the Talu chakra, and that drips down into the Vishuddha chakra, where this center holds it and it distributes it to the body. Apart from that, this ionized cerebrospinal fluid, it can through blood also reach the heart region, and during these uh, phases where the cerebrospinal fluid is highly charged, the heart is expanding, the heart brain connections are happening. Here, these emotions are very acutely experienced. A lot of love is released by that person to the external world. You can feel love. You can, till now, love was just something, a kind of thing which you felt for somebody in your house, or some things which you were attached to. But if at this level, love seems universal. There is no conditions for this type of a love. It just flows through, and you feel love for everybody, whomever you see. You see every person as part of the divinity. So that love flows towards everybody. It is not necessarily somebody that you know. It is even a stranger on the road. You can even go and hug somebody, and tell them, how great they are, how lovely they are, when you are having these heart awakenings, even when you do not know the person. So this is the kind of a profound effect the heart awakenings have on a person. And to have these heart awakenings and totally enjoy the depths of these heart awakenings, we should be in a receiving mode, like how the Gopikas are receiving Krishna's love. They are craving for the love of Krishna. So when we crave for the love of God and we are ready to receive it, we experience it fulfilled. Further, how is the Ras Leela, the play of Krishna with Gopikas, how is it connected with the spiritual awakening process? Krishna has 16 kalas or 16 attributes, and that is why he is the uh, avatar which represents the entire gamut of the divine principles or divine qualities. And those are the 16 kalas of Krishna, which are compassion, patience, forgiveness, justice, impartiality, detachment, spiritual powers, invincibility. He is the bestower. He is the beauty who is in human form. He has mastered dance and music. He represents the truth, the ultimate truth. He is the master of all, the controller of all. So these are the 16 attributes of Krishna, the 16 powers of Krishna, as you can say. And when you combine these 16 powers of Krishna with the 1,000 petals of Sahasrara Chakra, that is, each petal has 16 powers. The heart is connecting with the brain. So these 16 powers of Krishna are getting imprinted on every petal of the brain in the Sahasrara Chakra. This represents the Ras Leela. The Gopikas are 1,000 petals, and Krishna is the divine energy which is moving through these 1,000 petals in the brain, infusing the brain with the divine energy. The 16 kalas are there on every petal. The movement of this energy is the Ras Leela. So every Gopika is infused with the Krishna's energy. And that is why in Ras Leela you will see Krishna playing with every gopi or dancing with every gopi separately. So if there are 16,000 gopis, there are 16,000 Krishnas also there. Many saints would see this divine Ras Leela within their visions or within their dreams or in altered states of consciousness. Some would even participate in them. They would also dance and sing along with Krishna in their altered states of consciousness. And these would happen when there would be an acute heart brain connection or awakening happening in their body. When the heart brain connection is happening, the 16 kalas of Krishna, the different attributes of Krishna, are becoming part of our own system. That is why when a person is moving from the lower chakra to higher chakras, he starts displaying many sattvic qualities. For example, this is the Buddhi chakra, chakra of discretion or discrimination. This is even called as the Indu chakra. This is a little above the Agya Chakra region. So by the time the person's Kundalini Shakti reaches this area, the person will be displaying a lot of sattvic traits like peace, love, deep spiritual understanding, compassion, a kind of non-attachment. He will be experiencing spiritual bliss, gentleness, patience, perseverance, a very joyous mood. A deep concentration is possible. He is more self-aware. He is more restful. He is more playful. There's a lot of humbleness in the person, grace in the person. The person is more controlled in his emotions and behavior. So all these things come into a person when they are evolving from the lower chakras into the higher chakras. And when the energy is working in this area, and especially when a Kundalini awakening happens in the body and Kundalini Shakti reaches this area, the person is permanently established in that type of a state. They operate from that zone. In a top-down awakening, when the process is happening and when the energy is working in this area, during this phase, people generally experience most of these emotions within themselves because the energy of Krishna is working on the brain centers and it is enabling the person to experience these type of qualities or these types of higher emotions. Though in a top down awakening, when the energy is not working much on the brain, the person may come back to behaviors in the lower chakra because here the state is not a permanent state. In a top down awakening, the cycles of awakening happen. They have to happen over many times for a more bigger change to become a permanent stable condition in that person. But in a Kundalini awakening, it is a permanent state. A person will not go back from this level to the lower chakra behaviors. Our brain, it responds to music, rhythms, intonations in music, the ragas. They activate various parts of the brain. Even on the Sahasrara chakra, we have the matrikas, that is the Sanskrit alphabets. They are there on every petal of the Sahasrara chakra. The brain petal, it responds to a particular alphabet, a particular emotion, a particular rhythm. It is all there as part of the uh, system of chakras in our body. And the brain petals and the body petals which are there in the chakra system, they even have colors. So we have rhythm, we have color, we have the alphabet, the language, the emotion. They're all part of the chakra system. That is why when we listen to beautiful music, we go into a state of rapture. When our brain is capable of activating certain centers when we listen to music, we have to understand that the brain inherently has the ability to produce these sounds in those centers, and that is why it is responding to these sounds coming from an external agency. But the power to respond to these rhythms or sounds is inherently present within the brain. So even when there is no external agency causing these rhythms or these intonations in music, the brain within itself can produce these rhythms, these beats, these different intonations in a raga or in a music when the pranic energy is flowing through it very strongly. For example, the Vedas, we have four Vedas. Samaveda, it deals mostly with music and it describes 16,000 ragas or raginis. These are intonations of the music. And when somebody is chanting the Vedas, they use these 16,000 raginis or these intonations when they are chanting Vedas. The Vedic chanting uses the 16,000 raginis, and that is why when somebody is chanting the Vedas as a daily practice, all these centers in the brain are getting activated because these 16,000 raginis, they are the 16,000 gopis which I just spoke about in the Ras Leela section of this video. So this 16,000 gopis or these 16,000 raginis, they are intonation of various rhythms which are present throughout your brain centers which represent the Sahasrara chakra. And when somebody is using all these 16,000 intonations simultaneously during a practice, a chanting practice, all the centers or all the centers that are connected with the Sahasrara chakra, they are getting infused or activated in this process. And that is why when somebody chants the 16,000 intonations of rhythm on a daily basis for many years, they become very highly intelligent people. Their brain power exceeds a normal human brain power capacity. And it is not just them, they can transfer this enhanced brain capacity to the next generation through their DNA. It becomes a part of the family's enhanced intelligence capability. So, in a spiritual or Kundalini awakening, when there is this heart brain connection going on as part of the process, we listen to different musical instruments in our brain as part of the Anahata sounds. They represent different ragas, different emotions which are created when the heart connects with the brain. These new neurons which are formed because of this activity, they can replace the old programming of the brain. This will happen when the higher centers of the brain are activated because of this pranic flow happening in the total brain, and especially the upper part of the brain, the cortical area is affected a lot. A lot of brain centers which were earlier not functioning are opened up now and are functioning. The gray matter in the brain increases. So the old programming is getting replaced by higher emotions, new neural connections, new hormonal productions, new neurotransmitters. The quality or the level at which the body is now geared to function is different. And once this becomes a part of the person's system, the body vibration increases. So, a part of the lower self is released here if it is a top down awakening, and it is replaced by the higher self. And if it is a Kundalini awakening, the lower self is totally given away for the higher self. This is the Ras Leela which happens within us in a spiritual transformation. When somebody undergoes a Kundalini awakening, that is the energy which is at the base of the spine as a serpent, it wakes up and it moves up the spine. This sort of a Kundalini awakening process, many see Subramanya or Kumaraswamy. You can see that there is a peacock in the background here. So he too represents the serpent power or the Kundalini power. But here he is represented as the actual Kundalini awakening, which is starting at the base of the spine and not top down awakening. Krishna generally is seen in both, but mostly in a top down awakening, he is more prominent rather than a Kundalini awakening. But in Kundalini awakening, at least once you will see Lord Subramanya, and the weapon that he holds in his hand is the veil that represents the central nervous system and the brain. So once the process is complete, the person becomes a yogi and the entire central nervous system is within his control. That is the level which a person reaches with a total Kundalini transformation. Earlier in this video, I spoke about Hamsa, the swan, and how it is connected to our breath. This is even called as the Ajapa Gayatri, that is the mantra that is constantly chanted by us unconsciously is Hum Sa. Hum is the in breath and Sa is the out breath. When you are taking in the breath, it sounds like hum, and when you're releasing it, it sounds like sa. For example, take in breath through your right nostril. So when you're taking in breath, it is sounding like hum, and when you're releasing it, it is sounding like sa. So whenever you are in a meditative practice and the mind is wandering here and there, the best way to get the mind back into control is to focus it on your breath. Focus it on your in breath and out breath, the hum and the sa. When you're constantly focusing it on the hum and the sa, it becomes Hamsa. When this practice prolongs for a very long period of time, this turns into Soham. I am that. There's a sort of a reversal of breath which happens at a very high level. And when this Hamsa is being practiced on a daily basis, and because Hamsa is connected to the heart, a little heart awakening is happening within that person. As small experiences initially, then slowly with time they will experience a range of positive emotions which are connected with the heart center, like love, contentment, peace, joy, gratitude. They become a part of that person's daily life. And this will further the person's spiritual growth. So this constant in breath and out breath represents the Hamsa chanting. And this is called the Ajapa Gayatri. It simply means that you are doing a mantra without even realizing that you are chanting a mantra. As long as you are chanting this Hamsa mantra, the body is alive. So the Ajapa Gayatri is present in the heart region as something that can be awakened for you to realize yourself. You can use this Hamsa meditation technique with alternative nostril breathing or different types of breathing practices. And the thing that you have to incorporate is when you inhale or when you exhale, you have to retain your breath for a while. That is called as kumbhaka. That is, kumbhaka is the retention of the breath in a pranayama practice. So either after the inhalation you will hold your breath for a while, or you can even hold your breath after you exhale. So in between inhalation and exhalation, you can hold your breath for a while. What will happen when you hold your breath for a while during this practice? When the inspiration and expiration are changed to suspension, that is kumbhaka, the suspension of breath, the sound emitting divine power known as Gayatri is awakened. There is an power in the Muladhara chakra, and this power is awakened, and she passes through the Sushumna to the heart center, where she is realized in the concentration. When we retain our breath, there is something that is happening within our body. Normally, what happens in our body is, this is the pranic sheath that you are seeing here. So, in a normal person's body, the prana flows upwards and the apana flows downwards. But when you retain breath, the prana and apana, they change directions. Now, when they change directions, apana turns upward and prana turns downward, and they both meet in the stomach region. When they both meet in the stomach region, what happens is, this is called kumbhaka, where you retain breath, and this activity happens in your body. When this happens, the sound emitting power that is there in the Muladhara chakra, this gets activated, and she moves up the Sushumna channel to the Hrith center. The same is represented in the picture here. The orange arrow, it represents the sound power, the Gayatri, which is there as part of the Muladhara chakra, that moves up during breath retention to reach the heart. So if kumbhaka is used as part of your daily breathing activity, it will help the power that is there in the Muladhara chakra to be received at the heart level. Our spiritual progress is linked to how we breathe. When people advance spiritually, they take deep, long breaths and they breathe fewer times in a minute. And they are more concentrated on their breath. They can hear how they breathe in and breathe out. This in itself is the Hamsa breathing. The Hamsa, it is the self which exists in your body as breath. And when you catch hold of Hamsa, you realize your Atman. So breath is the way to realize the self. Before a spiritual awakening process, the person breathes more numbers of time. It is generally a shallow type of breathing, and this breathing, it feeds the ego. But once a person is spiritually awakened, the spiritual transformation has reached a particular level, the in breath and out breath are now felt like a mantra japa or a mantra chanting. This type of a breathing practice, it feeds the self and not the ego. So the hum sa, which is the mantra that we should focus upon in a meditative state, it will help us to realize the self, the heart awakening, the mind awakening. That is why we see visions of the swan when we're undergoing a heart awakening or when the mind awakening is happening. We see these visions. And the Gayatri, the power of Hamsa in the form of Hamsa Gayatri, is present within each one of us in the heart region. My salutations to the Hamsa Gayatri. Namaste.